Look at the massive scale of an American nuclear supercarrier. It's easy to look at a vessel this large and assume the U.S. Navy can independently project power anywhere on the globe without asking for help. But a carrier never travels alone. It relies entirely on a protective ring of escort ships to survive. And while the carrier itself runs on a nuclear reactor, those smaller destroyers and cruisers run on conventional fuel. Those non-nuclear escorts burn through their tanks rapidly. Keeping them operational at sea requires a continuous, floating supply chain for diesel, fresh food, medical supplies, and ammunition. The most advanced warships on Earth become dead weight if they run out of gas. The true measure of a nation's military power lies in the plumbing that keeps its hardware running. Look at this map. The U.S. is isolated in the Western Hemisphere, while active operations sit in the East. You cannot draw a straight supply line from American ports directly to combat zones. Sailing time makes rapid resupply impossible. To solve this geometry problem, the military relies on European allies. Since World War II, Allied bases have provided the stepping stones needed to refuel ships, to rearm jets, and stage equipment across the oceans. Right now, that established network of secure ports and friendly airfields is experiencing a rapid collapse. When diplomatic ties fray, access to those stepping stones disappears. Without them, the American military becomes physically marooned on its own side of the globe. Whenever the United States operates beyond its own shores, the standard procedure has always been to share the logistical burden with long-standing partners. The recent operations in Iran deviated entirely from that standard. The United States ignored the usual supply network and executed a major military operation unilaterally. Key partners, including the United Kingdom, a nation that has participated in nearly every major American military effort for 80 years, were completely excluded from the consultation and planning stages. Then, weeks into the operation, the U.S. administration began publicly demanding that those same allies contribute resources to a war they had no hand in designing. Bypassing established diplomatic channels to demand hardware turns reliable security partners away. The durability of a mission erodes the moment a nation assumes its allies will provide blind logistical support. Consider Italy. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni came into office strongly aligned with American foreign policy, sharing much of the ideological ground with U.S. leadership. That alignment fractured when the American executive branch began promoting images equating the president with religious figures, combined with highly public, aggressive attacks directed at the Pope. In a predominantly Catholic country, those specific rhetorical choices carry heavy political weight. The domestic backlash made it nearly impossible for Italian leadership to justify a close working relationship with the U.S. administration. The Italian government almost immediately broke away from the American policy consensus, going completely silent on the operations in Iran. That silence translated into severe operational roadblocks. Italy halted weapon shipments and restricted access to the logistical support needed in the Middle East. Abstract political rhetoric does not stay in the realm of diplomacy. It dictates whether an ally allows a cargo plane to land and refuel on its soil. This map illustrates the scale of the resulting fallout. Italy is not an isolated case. Spain, France, and even the United Kingdom are now actively withdrawing their cooperation from the American supply network. Governments across the continent are denying American forces access to their military hardware and locking down the crucial air bases needed to stage heavy equipment overseas. A combination of economic strain from an unconsulted war and deep moral alienation from Washington's rhetoric has driven this coordinated rejection. As these partner nations restrict access, the logistical pathways narrow dramatically. Right now, Germany acts as the absolute last remaining pipeline connecting the U.S. mainland to the Middle East. If the German government decides to follow its neighbors and close its bases to American operations, the military logistical chain breaks entirely. The United States would lose its physical ability to project and sustain combat forces in the region. Hostile nations have spent decades trying to figure out how to keep American warships and aircraft out of their hemisphere. In a matter of weeks, unilateral decision-making and offensive diplomacy accomplished that goal for them.